say something.
All right.
Okay, gang, we need to start to get through with our program. Could somebody close the door up here, and the door in the back?
We need that in here.
I know, but when the doors are open, concentration is down. Andy's going to introduce the next speaker to us.
It's with a great deal of pleasure that I introduce this next person. When I got started in all this alternative stuff, there was nobody on the scene that had any clue about all of the legal ramifications of this divergent path we were all taking. Several of us got into some hot water. Some of us paid the prices, the ultimate prices. And, as I look back, if somebody had been on the scene like this next gentleman, I think that none of us would have had to pay any price at all. I think he's quickly become the ultimate authority on the legal aspects of alternative dentistry especially. And he has bailed out one after another across the country dentists that have gotten into problems with their boards. I can look around the room and see 3 or 4 that I know, as well as myself. And he's the man that I call him and almost weekly when I went back into practice. I said, Charlie, I'm deathly afraid of bringing all this stuff back into the office. He says, we've kicked their ass so bad that there's no way that they're going to come after you again at this point in time. And so far it's been true, but I don't know for how much longer I'm going to hang on like that. But Charlie Brown he's harassed these boards, and he's harassed the ADA, the CDA, the Arizona Dental Association, et cetera, to the extent that many of these groups have either folded or are on the verge of folding. So you pay attention to what this guy has to say and give him a big round of applause because he deserves it.
Thank you. I want to start actually with our friend Dr. Lai from Taiwan, who is going to do Kung Fu breathing for all of us. This is real great. He was showing me, and actually I think that's the best way to start. So go ahead. I'm going to yield the first 2 minutes, 1 minute of my time to Dr. Lai here, as they say in the political world.
Just a couple of sentences before we go on. That in general, when we breathe, we use the top part of the lung. But unfortunately, the majority of the blood goes to lung, circulates through the lower part of the lung. So it's not very effective. So that's why you say, well, if the Kung Fu master have a bigger lung after they train? No, they just habitually ventilate most part of the lung instead of one part of the higher. We breathe shallowly, only the top 1/3. And so this is how you train from the beginning. Basic Kung Fu training. And then from that, then you will slowly, habitually breathe deeper and recruit more of your lung for the air exchange. Then you get more oxygen. And in Kung Fu training, means that you are going to pressurize the oxygen into your deep tissue. Okay? This is how we do it. Just watch me first without my saying anything, and then explain quickly. Like the sun is lighting up early in the morning, that's the best.
Here, up here, Dr. Lai.
Okay,
sorry. Breathing the whole time.
So you inhale the whole time. You inhale, you pretend you're going to inhale the energy of the earth into your body. Pull it in. Inhale. And then you are pulling the energy from the heaven. Inhale, no exhale. And then blow the whole thing out in 1 split second. Okay? If you can do that 10 times in the morning without feeling lazy, that means you are a habitual good breather. Get it? So inhale, inhale, inhale. And when you blow out quickly like that, you pop open majority of your air bubble, air sac in your lung. And do it long enough, then you will be a kung fu breather.
Do it one time. Let's do it.
Okay. Okay. That's it.
Now the American. I will. And I do that. And thank you. I know. I've got 15 minutes, so I'm going to go through what we've been doing, and I may have time for a question or two. I hope I do. Basically, the ADA has succeeded in beating us so far, but that has changed so dramatically in the last year that it's a totally different paradigm now. But they've succeeded by this iron triangle. The one leg of it is the gag rule, is to say to dentists that you can't discuss the negatives of amalgam. Now that, we call the gag rule, they don't call it that, but that's what it is, so we've adopted that word. So the gag rule is one leg of this iron triangle. Another is the deception, telling the public this stuff is silver, telling them it's safe. The starting point is silver. People tell me, PhDs tell me, all kinds of physicians tell me, I didn't know that was mercury, it's called silver. So they've hidden it from the public, deceived the public, and shut you guys up. That's two legs, and the third is their money and their power. So that's where we fight the ADA. We fight each leg of that triangle. Now, I am delighted, and I left material on a lot of desks. I hope all of you got it. I left a lot of places. There's a bunch of clippings there. And that first one is the demise of the gag rule in Oregon yesterday. It's so exciting. The Oregon Dental Board met. It's just fantastic. That's right, Linda. You're good. Leave the applause there. Anyway, the Oregon... Led by a stellar lawyer up there, Sandy Duffy, and a consumer activist, Marianne Newell, Sandy went to the ACLU, who agreed, the ACLU of Oregon agreed that the gag rule is, in fact, a violation of the First Amendment rights of dentists to speak. And they took the case, and they wrote a letter to the Attorney General of Oregon and said, get rid of the gag rule, or else in 30 days we're in court. The Attorney General told the dental board they had to meet, they had to address this. The Oregonian, we worked on the press, the Oregonian writes a front page story yesterday, so the dental board members get up, read about themselves on page 1, have the meeting at noon, 40 people showed up, they'd never seen 40 people at one time at a dental board meeting, and they voted to repeal the gag rule. So that's dead in Oregon. The gag rule is dead in California for a lot of political reasons, for this whole battle that we did over the last couple years. Starting with Andy Landerman in 1999 standing up to the board. If he hadn't done this, it wouldn't have happened. He said to the dental board, I'm going to be amalgam-free when he's up there to take his his license. And they just, I mean, you know, you would have thought he would have said, I'm going to join the Taliban. I mean, these guys just went ballistics talking about it, but they were so extreme and really foolish in their statements, led by the statement that said an amalgam-free practice does not fit the standard of practice in California, that they undid themselves by their arrogance. And starting in 1999, in a petition we then filed with the board, the dental board was on its way down. And of course, if politics has a death penalty, the California Dental Board got the death penalty in 2001. So anyway, I really appreciate what Vaughn has done now in 2002 to get this battle right in front of you all, to get dentists on those boards, because we need dentists on the dental board. That's so important. And I want to stress there's a lot of things that go into these appointments. Certainly contribution is due, and you need to contribute, because that's how people often become players. But it's much more than that, because our argument, and it's part of this point of what we represent, is you all are at the top of a pyramid of enthusiasts, of consumers, of patients, of health freedom advocates, of environmentalists. We've been very successful with minority folks, particularly in the African American community, with this issue in the last year. We're getting environmentalists and consumer advocates into it. The ADA and the CDA in California and all these dental associations don't have a single ally. Not one. Not once have I been to a hearing where a patient walks in and says, I love being in the dark. I love being deceived and thinking this is silver. I mean, this is wonderful. I mean, we always bring lots of, with Terry Lee's hearings, there were always lots of folks there that stood up and said, I like him. I like this brand of dentistry that I get from Lee and Meyer and Margolis and the other dentists in Arizona, because it's important that I get that kind of treatment. I don't want mercury. And that's a political point heavily in our favor, that we can bring in those kind of people, and you can bring them in through this process. This process of Consumers for Dental Choice started, I want to say, to the brainchild of two people in 1996. One of them is Sue Ann Taylor, a journalist in Atlanta, and the other one's in the room in the back, Bob Jones. Bob, with his own pocketbook, has sponsored a program and brought all these Western folks together in 1996 and said, we've got to do something. We're beleaguered. Huggins had just lost his license. Things look so bleak. And Bob brought us together and said, let's start an organization and do something. And Bob, thank you very much, because that's where Consumers for Dental Choice started. And Andy kept going with this caveat. Bob's an engineer. He finally prevailed at the FDA after they tried to box him out 6 ways from Sunday. You can beat these boards. You can beat these bureaucracies. And he won against a real tough bureaucracy in the FDA and has that fine caveat now available in the marketplace. Now, so the gag rule, and this is the most important point I want to make, and I'm going to go through other things we're doing, but the gag rule is on its way down. I mean, as a former governor of Texas used to say, Ann Richards, you can poke a stick in it, now it's done. It's gone in California, it's gone in Oregon, it's gone in Arizona according to the dental board. As long as we've got a legislative friend, Mike and I do, Karen Johnson, Terry's friend, who has continued to attack the dental board, and they say, okay, you can be mercury free, that's no problem. So we think we've got it in Arizona. There are other states that it's going to go down. I'm going to have a meeting with the ACLU folks in Oregon, phone meeting on Monday, and we're going to discuss a strategy to take this national. From the other coast, we're very happy that a friend of mine who is the former president of the Virginia branch of the NAACP is very interested in getting a resolution passed with that national group, and he's going to start with the state chapter there. Already the National Black Caucus of state legislators has enlisted in this. I mean, you all have got to start being proactive. The dental boards can't win anymore. They used to win. They used to win until 1996. They haven't won anymore. They haven't won anymore in this mercury issue. They know they have a loser. They might still harass. I can't say they won't harass. They're not going to win. They can't possibly win. You've got the First Amendment. You can talk to your patients. All you're doing is telling them about the science. All you're doing is doing the reality. And one of the realities, and a word you have to start using, every dentist has to start using, you've got to quit using the word amalgam. You just can't use the word amalgam. The word is mercury amalgam, mercury fillings. Okay? Mercury amalgam, mercury fillings. Let's say it. Mercury amalgam, mercury fillings. Always say mercury. Always say it. Don't say amalgam anymore. That's what dentists want you. That's what the ADA wants to say. Use the M word. That was our whole crusade in California. Use the M word. We had signs up. We had quite a group. And we do have quite a group we've constructed. I mean, we have quite a team, and that's why it's great. A lot of y'all are helping, and I obviously have to make that pitch across the board to do that. Anita T. Bao is our full-time California director. She's the one that on LA TV stood up and confronted the dental board last June and said, why won't you even come to a hearing? Because the only guy there was their investigator. They ducked out of a hearing, and I can tell you that confrontation in the second biggest media market in the country finished that dental board last year. I mean, they were on their way down, and that was Anita T. Bao doing that and doing that kind of a confrontation. We have a California lobbyist now. This is part of taking on the power of the ADA is the constituency building I'm talking about. The NAACP, the ACLU, and NAACP isn't on yet. We're working on the ACLU, and they're not on it totally, all of them, but the Oregon group is. Environmental groups like Clean Water Action is definitely in. health groups, Physicians for Social Responsibility of LA, the Mercury Policy Project. It's just a growing list of people. You're on the pyramid. You've got all these people. And that, to me, means with that license is that duty. You've been given something very special, a dental license or another health license for some of your others. And the important thing is to start talking about that very message and to say that, because you can advise people. This is Mercury. You can advocate mercury-free dentistry. Please start advocating, and please start advertising. Here's a Florida ad. This guy says he's a mercury-free dentist. Mercury-free dentistry in big print right on the ad. That's the kind of thing to say. Of course you can say that. Of course you can say, dental board may write you a letter, you write a letter back, you know. What's wrong with that? I don't use mercury. That's the truth. The Federal Trade Commission years ago said that was okay. Absolutely, it's communication. It's the First Amendment right that you have as men and women professionals to talk to your patients and the public, because the public's got to learn this. And please, it isn't just the people who figure it out and come to your office in the code words and say, this is what we need. So this is a movement I think we can do, but I think your role is to really start talking. Remember, you're going to get the patients. People are going to walk with their feet. Either the dentists are going to join you or the patients are going to walk. Every movement had to start with a small number of people. Chiropractors used to go to prison years ago. I mean, you know, it's so legitimized now, they don't have to worry about that. I mean, you have something that's very important, something that's totally legal, and something that is a message to get out. And that is not something that can be denied anymore, because the history is your way. Think of anything. Think of the civil rights movement 20 and 30 years ago. The people that advocating for integration and against the awful treatment of blacks and Hispanics and stuff. I mean, they were right. But they didn't seem right then. They seemed too controversial. I mean, everybody may not know you're right. No, everybody's going to know you're right, and you're going to be the ones ahead of the curve. You're going to be the pioneers. You're going to be the ones with the patience as well. And I think, but that's important to realize that you are the folks that are at the cutting edge, and just be bold, because there's no way, bold people, they don't stand up to bold people. They can't take bold people out because they don't know what to do with you. So they just have to kind of let things go, and that's the way it is. So Lynette Schmidt's one of our big allies through the Native American shaman system that she works on. I learned so much about all the other ways that healthcare is provided here, and all the Ayurvedics and all this. Mamta, that was such a great speech, and I really appreciate learning all that stuff here. We have another part of our work, and that's fighting the deception of the ADA. Sean Karami is our lead attorney on that out of LA. He's the one that did the Prop 65 case, which is going to be announced in about another 6 to 8 weeks, maybe less, which is going to basically make all these CDA dentists put up their signs and use the M word. And that is a big case that Sean filed. Now, Sean and I, in June of 2001, filed the case that's also in your clippings, and it was in USA Today as well, and that's in a clipping, against the ADA for deceptive practices. So against the ADA and the CDA in California. We filed a cookie cutter case in Maryland 2 weeks ago against the ADA and the Maryland Dental Association. We're going to file cases in several other states. I don't think I'm supposed to announce where they are, but there's 2 or 3 states getting ready to file. One of them is Georgia, might be Georgia, but I'm not supposed to announce that. But anyway, we're finding the attorneys, we're finding the folks that want to proceed. And Sean told me yesterday on the phone he thinks we can bankrupt the ADA. So that's that would be a goal. He said, I'm not sure, but Sean's an optimist. That's the way you litigate. What's that?
What happened with the appointment of the California ADA board on December 31st? They were supposed to be...
Yeah, and you mean the California Dental Board. Let me answer it. The Dental Board did go out of business December 31st. There's been no Dental Board for 60-some days. Isn't that nice? But the Dental Board's being reappointed. You may have missed Vaughn earlier, but he addressed that. The dentist had a meeting with the governor. Some of our outstanding, George Shuchard was there, and Chet Yokoyama, along with Vaughn Harada and Andy Landerman, and any other dentists who were here who were at that. There are several other dentists. Okay, and you're You're David Biles. Thank you. We talked on the phone. Nice to see you, David. Okay, good. David Biles flew down from up here, down there, and talked to the governor, about our issue. The governor said, "I'm going to integrate the board," was his words, which we interpret as meaning mercury-free dentists. So California is a trendsetter state. We've put a heck of a lot of our energy here. We think we need to, because we think this is the trend. Now, we have the legislation. We have bills introduced. Not all of them have bill numbers yet. Some of them have moved. New Hampshire, a bill in New Hampshire We didn't win the vote on banning amalgam for children, but we do have a very strong disclosure and environmental bill in New Hampshire. It's passed the House, the New Hampshire House. It's in the Senate. We have bills with sponsors in Georgia, in Alabama, in Ohio, in Illinois, in California, Washington, and Arizona. So we have bills going. State bills are very important. We need your help with state bills. We think we can bring in a lot more of them next year. Are we going to pass all of them? Definitely not. Are we going to pass some of them? Well, we think we can pass New Hampshire. This year, we think we can pass others. Now, when we pass a law, we don't walk away. In Maine, they're supposed to write a brochure, and a committee is addressing it this Wednesday, a brochure after Senator Michaud's law was passed last year. He's running for Congress, so that would be wonderful to have him in Congress alongside Diane Watson and Dan Burton working on this. And his bill is being implemented now with a pretty darn good brochure. I've read it, and if the committee approves it in the legislature, and the legislature does, we're going to have a brochure that you can hand out and say this is the main brochure. It's very balanced. It doesn't say we're right, but it raises all the issues of vapors and toxicity and children and the environment and all those issues that the California Dental Board tried to conceal, to, I'm sure, in retrospect, to their regret. So at least the regret of the board members that are gone. So Maine is a big breakthrough opportunity. So we are very much a national movement. We think we've got actions going in a lot of states. I'll be happy to take some questions. I'll be very happy to do that. Andy, do you want to? Andy's going to pass out. Sorry to make the. It's now time for the pitch here, but some of you contribute. Mike Margolis sends $500 a month, and Nick Meyer $300. Bill Glaros $200. A number of you contribute to this cause. I know. I just really hope more of you would consider doing it. We simply don't exist without the financial help. I mean, you all have helped sustain it. We do go to foundations. We do have foundation help, but we have now 9 people involved in this thing who are professionals and need to be paid. I'm one of them. Anita Tebow, I mentioned. Pete Conity, who's our Sacramento lobbyist. We have Ed Hogan out of Columbus, who's a lobbyist. These are both on part-time amounts. But Ed has worked so hard to recruit black legislators into this and has found sponsors in Ohio, Illinois, Georgia, and Alabama. Half of our states have African-American sponsors, thanks to Ed Hogan, as well as that resolution of the National Conference of Black State Legislators. We have Freya Koss, many of you have talked to. Those that give $1,000 over a year or more will get their names listed in our website that we think is becoming more popular. That's www.toxicteeth.net, www.toxicteeth.net. A lot of press people, a lot of consumers we think are going into that. You'll get your name listed if you do choose to give $1,000 or more to our organization this year. And you can do it by monthly contributions on a credit card, $300 a month, $200 a month, $100 a month, $1,000 a month, $100,000 a month, whatever you want to do. We do also want you to think about rich patients, and if you have rich patients that really might want to give, who you have healed, because you people are healing people. The other dentists are getting them sick, and you're healing them, and God bless you. It's just fantastic. And I just think we got to trumpet what you do, and we're trying to do that in websites and in our program. That this is the movement of the future. I think Governor Davis understands that. I think part of this thing was he realized this is a movement. Politicians don't want to miss movements, because that's part of being in politics, is you find out about them and you embrace them. If the parade, as Adlai Stevenson said, if the parade's moving that way, you better hurry up and get in front of it. And I mean, that's part of being in politics, and I've been in politics. I kind of understand that. And so I think that's part of what I hope y'all will recognize, that the more we show we're a movement, the more we can really succeed with it. Let me just get questions, but please do consider helping. David Biles? Okay.
One quick observation. I've been to a lot of CDA meetings. I'll tell you, I think they're very vulnerable on water quality coming out of dental offices, which is really wide open. I mean, you have a lot of allies outside of dentists for that. That's been mandated in Toronto.
And in Toronto, what's happened in Toronto? I want to get the question. Dr. Biles' comments real important as the environmental aspect. We're working on that. I want to talk about it. Tell us about Toronto, sir, Doctor.
Full inspectors that are going around the city checking with dental offices who are not complying. We're not making any moves towards complying with cleaning up the effluents in the office.
Do you know about the city of Palo Alto study? Last year, 24 pounds of mercury went into the water. Do you know how much of those 24 pounds came from dental offices? Pretty close, Mike. 20 out of 20. Yes, sir? Yeah.
Percentage of mercury that came
Well, it's 20. I know there, but it's 20 out of 24 pounds, and that's the one mistake. And keep in mind, Sweden changed because of the environment. That's the thing. They can't fight us on the environment. That's not even something they have any support on, except to say it isn't much, and they're wrong. The California EPA report is going to be finalized soon. We met with them. We have the draft report. The final's coming out soon, and they asked us to respond to the CDA. I mean, to some extent, I want you to sense how central we think we try to be to this whole process. So they said nobody else worked on the CDA, so we did. We answered the CDA. Now, we're going to Earth Justice. I talked to them Thursday. They're the lawyers for the Sierra Club. And I asked them if they wanted to file a petition with the California Water Board. We do a lot of the work if they want to do it. They're going to think about it. If they don't do it, we're going to find somebody else to do it because we have the constituencies to do it. And we're going to try in California, the very environmentally sensitive. The most environmentally sensitive areas probably are California and New England. And those are the places where we're pushing the environmental issues the hardest. Yes, sir. You're Dr. Sir? Cowden? Okay. Okay.
There's over 100 million people in the United States that have mercury microbes in their teeth. And the dentists in this room believe in getting those out. And once the word comes out to the public that it needs to happen, there are a lot of people going to their dentist to try to get the mercury out of their teeth. That's going to have to go somewhere where when the drilling occurs, it's going to have to go out in the effluent. So what we need to find is someone that can help us with some type of entrapment and reclamation process.
And there are those companies. One of them is DRNA. I don't know others. I'm not trying to promote one company, but Dental Recycling North America has much more than a trap system. They feel they really get it all. I don't know. You're Dr. Okay.
Dr. Paulus from Victoria, British Columbia.
Okay,
And
Dr. Paulus.
every dental office now, they
BC.
come around and inspect you. You have to have traps, that are certified to trap the mercury before it goes into the sewage.
Well, why isn't the Health Canada advice being followed? Aren't they still putting amalgam in children and pregnant women and stuff, some of the dentists? If this was just advisory and a lot of dentists tossed the advice, or what?
Well,
I mean, the 1996 advice.
Yeah, the Richardson report, but they decided to, because of the lobbies, all my friends that were at the meeting walked away because the government naturally backed away at the last minute and said, well, this is too controversial, whatever, we're not going to do anything about it.
Okay.
They didn't implement the report.
Okay, any other, about one or two more questions? Bob Jones? Quick.
Charlie, everybody needs to be aware on February the 20th, the FDA posted
Yeah.
the Federal Register Dr. Susan Runner, who's Director of Dental Devices at the FDA. Dr. Runner is a 20-year veteran of the FDA. She is a black woman, oral surgeon, and can't find her registration anywhere, accreditation on oral surgeon.
Well, never mind her that. Just tell them the rule,
Anyway,
because that's important.
She has written a whole new proposition, and she's the one we've been fighting in the FDA for 20 years on the mercury rule, about mercury amalgam, okay? She is pro-amalgam, and what she's done is she's gotten so much pressure. Consumer Dental Choice has won in so many states that the states are overriding what the FDA says about amalgam. So now she's decided it's time to classify. First time that amalgam's ever been looked at for classification. But Dr. Runner doesn't understand the rules. And what it is, she's written a deal that would classify it as a class 2, which says there are some controls, but amalgam is safe. That has not been proven. By moving something out of an unregulated spot, they have to move it automatically into class 3.
Let's just summarize it, because I think we're done. But you're right. It's yes. Okay.
Very restricted class 3. Can't be used in any introduced into human where it causes harm. That's the thing. And it has to go to class 3. She's trying to bypass that by being the director over the dental to move it into class 2, and which is where we're classified, which is controlled but not overly controlled. And what we've got to do is stop that classification at that weight and make her follow the rules.
Yeah, and I want to respond to that. I should not have missed talking about that. That is a huge battle. What the FDA is trying to do is write uniform disclosures. You understand what uniform means? They want to preempt everything the states are doing.
Right.
They want to stop all this movement in the states, and they want to write disclosures that say nothing. That is a huge battle we got. Submissions are due in May. We've got to get organized for it. I mean, it's not like this is a straight line to victory at all. There are huge battles, and this one is maybe the toughest one we face is dealing with the FDA. So I'm glad he mentioned it. We've got to gear up. That's another reason we really need your help. We need your letters. We need your input. We need financial help because the FDA battle is going to be huge because they are the ADA's office in Washington, no doubt about it. Do we have time for any more questions? We don't. Okay.
Just a statement.
Okay.
I know that Julie Whitaker has a huge newsletter following very much against mercury. So why can't we get? And he's always fighting the FDA. Why can't we get his support in trying to fight this along with the FDA through the public?
I don't know enough about his comment, but okay. We need everybody.
Mamta, you want to come here?
We're bad news, I tell you. So.
Thanks, Charlie. I know the politics for us is a very important issue. However, when we make these programs, sort of we don't want to disadvantage the other speakers that are also here. So we have to find a balance with that. Mamta was asked a lot of questions in the break, so I told her she can come up here for 2 minutes and just answer those collectively.
Thank you. I was approached in the break to see if I would give any workshops on Ayurveda, and Andy and I had also discussed this, and I would be willing to design a workshop for dentists so that you have it from you can approach it, from what you do, the different modalities and how Ayurveda offers it. If this is something that interests you, please leave me your business card so I have a way of knowing who all are interested, and that's the quickest way that I can think of. I'm sitting in the back there. I also want to just announce that another hat that I wear is being the president of the California Association of Ayurvedic Medicine, and we're doing an international symposium at UC Berkeley in May. We've got people internationally coming to talk. We also have an interdisciplinary panel on one of those days where we have an acupuncturist, Ayurvedic person, naturopath, homeopath, and doctors, allopath, all discussing and having a joint panel discussion, as well as a holistic dentist. So if you're interested in any more details, take one of these from the back, and you can contact us and we'll send you a detailed program. And lastly, I also have people asking me about my center, and I have a brochure in the back there too if you're interested. Thank you.
I'd like to introduce the next speakers. I think we have a very exciting topic coming up. That is, what do we do with the patient other than just putting the drill in their mouth? How do we guide the patient through the words, how we talk to them, how we say hello to them, how we say goodbye to them? How do we guide them psychologically through this process? And Dan Green is a dentist, a local dentist, and he paired up with Tal Brown, who is an educational psychologist. And I'm very excited about your lecture. Why don't you guys come up? I don't know where you are back there. We do have 2 microphones. You want to play tic-tac-toe, or you go tandem? You go tandem, or you go simultaneously?
Oh.
No, we do have 2 microphones here, so you're invited to share that.
Okay.
You're hooked up already.
So that we don't get confused, I'm Green and this is Brown. I'm a dentist, he's a wannabe. I'm here in response to a dream that I've had. And I've known all along that I'd be standing in front of a crowd like yourselves, giving you the information that I've had, that Tal has given to me. I've worked with him for about 7 years. And he has worked with dentists for over 30 years. And the information that I have obtained from him is information that has allowed me to better communicate with my patients, to allow me to better identify who I'm talking to. And that has allowed me to really be able to understand better what the true needs of the patient are. And that's kind of pulled me out of a lot of fires. So I'm here to share that information with you. And when I've heard Tal talk in the past, there have been a couple of things that have interfered with the people being able to really grasp what he has to say. And one of those is the fact that this is about relationships. This is about people. And we all have experiences with relationships and people. We have preconceived ideas on how a relationship should work or how it shouldn't work. And so what happens is that when you take in the information, you're comparing it to your past experiences. And in doing that, it becomes one-sided. And so I would give you permission here today that as you're hearing this, if you hear those little tapes popping in, let them go and sort of take a beginner's mind. Take it as if you've never heard information like this before. And just allow it to come in without those tapes and without the glasses, and just absorb it. And the other pitfall that I've seen run into is that when you start looking at people and putting them into categories and looking at them as if they are different, we start to, because of our educational background, wanting to put grades on it, A, B, C, D. We start wanting to say, oh, this is good and that's bad. We let judgment come in. And I would like to say that instead of judgment, let that go and let compassion come in. Let compassion come in when that person comes in, just knowing that there is something that connects us all. And don't let that go. Just keep that in mind when we're sitting here looking at the patient, and just understand that we're all connected. And I think then a lot of this will make better sense. If we start to run on and you guys get a little bored, pull the hook on us. I kind of feel like Tommy Smothers had a little quote that I liked. He said, if you really don't know what you're talking about, it's hard to know when you're done.
He's just talking about himself. I don't say any of it.
And so with that, I'm going to let Tal take over.
Thank you, great.
There we go.
Well, we started with a strong hand, and I'm the follow-up. When I was in training and learning how to do counseling kinds of stuff, they said when you get all this training and you really get into helping people, you put your name out there, your shingle out there, and you invite them in, and you treat them all the same. I thought that was really cool. They lied to me. I can't take care of all of them. Some of them are so different and weird and peculiar, and what they look for is not what I do. And I can't treat them all the same because this guy's a little different than this guy. And so I found that it would really be neat if I could identify who fits with me and where there's a linkage, so that in our relationship it's a win-win. Now, most of the dentists that I work with don't have a lot of that win-win. It's usually some sort of a win-lose situation. And it's unfortunate that many of us in the helping professions get caught up in attempting to treat or care for people who have problems that we don't enjoy dealing with, or have interest levels that are different than ours, or personalities that are so alien to where we're comfortable that there's not a rapport. And so it seems to me that if we could find that, for people in marketing, they talk about that socioeconomic niche in the marketplace. If we could find that niche where I see and identify and relate to that population that's a win-win, hell, I have a good time doing it, and I make a little money, and I do my best work. I'd prefer, and so one of the things I find about why dentists have high incidence of suicide is because they don't find this fit. They have all kinds of situations where there's conflicts, difficulties, no communications. It's very stressful for them. So we need to find that fit. And that's what Dan and I would like to talk about, how you take a look at the prospective customer and identify, not by being judgmental, but by listening. And if you listen, they'll tell you everything. I had the honor earlier this afternoon to listen to someone that was probably one of the best listeners I've ever heard in my life. And she comes from a whole different frame of reference. But gee, the wisdom and their sophistication, and if we could transfer some of those listening skills to dentistry and understanding what is it that's going to be that fit for me in relationship to you. I do this every time I'm looking at a prospective client that's referred to me. And is there going to be a relationship where I'm going to be able to be myself and enjoy my work with him and enhance his life so that it's a win-win? Well, when I find that, I'm usually my best self. And usually I get his best. But most of us don't find that. So a long time ago, I started working with the dental profession, and one of the places in the country that thinks they're pretty good about working with dentists is the L.D. Pankey Institute. Anybody in here ever hear of the L.D. Pankey Institute? Well, they had this old fart, this guy named L.D. Pankey, who was a pretty good dentist, but he was a really good psychologist. And it's kind of funny because he didn't know much about professional psychological stuff. But he came up with this concept of classifying patients. And I found that it had great potential, but it looked like most of the guys that went from the institute, my clients, and went back to their offices and tried to use that, implement it in their practice, it didn't work so well. And it came out to be more judgmental and maybe a little more mercenary, and it lost its effectiveness. So I'd like to talk about that concept and how we expanded it just a little to take a look at 3 issues. One issue is a person's ability to pay. You're not in a social service agency. You have to pay for the lights and the overhead, and you have to pay for your payroll. And hold my calls, I'll be finished in a minute. So one of the things is, can they pay for my services? Second thing is, what's their level of appreciation? What's their level of appreciation for the type of dentistry that I do? For the philosophy that I have about health? For what's important to them in their life? What's their level of appreciation? The higher the level of appreciation, the greater the fee you can charge. Low level of appreciation, they think you're ripping them off if you charge $1.50. High level of appreciation, you can charge any fee and they'll pay with gratitude. What's the ticket to get that level of appreciation in your business? Hygienist. The more sophisticated the educational skills of the hygienist, the better we're able to raise that level of appreciation. And the last thing that I think is important that Dr. Pankey didn't have in his concept was personality type. What's their personality like? Now, there's some personalities that I have a really good time with. There's some personalities that I don't do so good with. I'd be better off working on the ones I have a good time with. So I'd like you to think about looking at their ability to pay, their level of appreciation, and their personality type. And can you develop your listening skills to such a high level that you'll be able to determine, and I think did we hand out that? Yeah. You'll be able to determine how they fit on this multidimensional classification thing that we've developed. Let's just think in terms of two gross populations. One we'll call clients, and the other we'll call patients. And you'll see very quickly, let me give you a couple examples of, you'll see very quickly that the kinds of characteristics that come from the medical model, which most of us are trained in this medical model. These are for real doctors. The medical model teaches people to typically be passive recipients. Most of them are undependable. They play all kinds of games, manipulations, the payoffs of which are somebody's getting disappointed, shot down, taken advantage of. They come to us in great levels of fear, therefore they're very uptight. Physically, psychologically, it's much more difficult to care for them. They want to pay minimum payment. They pay poorly, and money is really an issue, so they're very insurance dependent. They take no responsibility for their problems or their situation or their home care. They ask dumb questions, and when you answer their questions, they ask the same question again. They get you to do what's expedient. Those are characteristics that we find most people that are cast in the role of patient exhibit. Most of the time, that's how they behave. Now, here are some characteristics of people that I have identified as clients. They're active participants, very cooperative and dependable. They're pleasant in their personalities. They refer other clients. They refer other nice people. They give and get respect from others. They're very relaxed and comfortable. They always want quality care. They pay any fair fee with gratitude. They take responsibility. They ask intelligent questions. And they have a high level of appreciation. Now, if you just take a few minutes to take a look at your practice and think, how many of the people in your practice would you identify as patients versus clients? If your practice has more than 50% patients, it's costing you a tremendous amount of time, energy, and effort, and you're getting a modest compensation for it. If your practice is predominantly clients, you're able to do more quality, more sophisticated, easier, more fun, more relaxed, less stress. So if you look at this handout, you'll see that the dotted line here, yes, the dotted line separates people that are patients or clients. I'd like to have my staff, if I'm a dentist, I'd like to have all my staff be such good listeners that they're going to be able to hear what's the ability to pay, what's their level of appreciation for quality care, what are they looking for in this practice, and what is their personality like? Are they a joy to have in the office? So anybody that would get a score of a 1 or a 2, they would be identified as potential clients. And my hygienists are responsible for raising that level of appreciation with good educational skills, establishing a high level of commitment to care and support. People that get a 3, we got about 6 to 8 months to say, is there some way that with our care and our kindness and our educational skills, we can raise their level of appreciation to a 2 level. If we think we can do that in 6, 9 months, then we ought to consider them into the practice. If we say we couldn't do that in 6 years, it'd probably be difficult to get a good return for your effort. Then we have people that get scores of 4s. Most of the people in this room should not be seeing a person that tells you that they're a 4. because the kind of dentistry that you're attempting to do is not consistent with what they're looking for. Most of the 4 situations are in a crisis state. They're looking for somebody to take care of them, and they're only going to go when it hits the fan, and they're not going to be appreciative, not dependable. They're not even going to pay. And they'll raise hell. Yeah, and they're a pain in the ass in every way. So if you just think, is there some way that I can identify who I'm inviting to this party? See, the mistake that most of us in the profession is that we open the door and we take care of anybody that comes in. It shouldn't be that way. We should think in terms of who's coming in this door. Is what they're looking for what I do? Or what I do, is that what they want? And would that be a good fit? If it's a win-win, everybody's going to have a nice deal out of it. If it isn't, then it's going to be more stressful. It's a pain in the ass. All right. Any comments, questions, disagreements, reactions to? Yes?
Well, we have a lot of clients who, because of their toxicity issues,
Yes.
they are ill.
Very good.
And so if you just looked and evaluated them based on this,
Yes.
the money issue might not be an issue.
Okay.
But they can be combative. They can be
Yes.
hostile.
Yes.
They're very ill.
Good.
So that has to be brought into the
Excellent.
factor that you
Excellent. Did you hear that?
Yes.
Okay, so many of the clients that they see have such high levels of toxicity that they are difficult. Personality-wise, is very irritating, problematic, challenge. Yes. Now, if my specialty is to take care of that population, that's our fit. It's my thing. I'm probably going to be more open and tolerant and understanding of that particular situation. And I hope I'm going to surround myself with a staff that are going to have the level of maturity and sophistication that they're going to say, we understand it's not their personality, those are manifestations of the toxicity. And with our skills and caring, we'll free them from all that craziness, those irritants and so forth, and bring out the lovely part of them.
Well, that's our goal.
Right on, right on. On the other hand, there may be some people that come to you that are going to be mean stinkers with or without that toxicity. Let me give you an example. There are a variety of people that I've seen for counseling over the years. And I learned after about 4 or 5 years that passive-aggressive people, I'm not so good with them. They just kind of sit there and don't say anything and vegetate. And I don't care, they can be hostile and crazy and angry and whatever. I can relate to them if I have something going on with them. But if they're doing passive-aggressive, they can probably beat me. They can hold on to being crazy, and I can't help them. So I figured it'd be smart for me to refer them to another therapist that's good with passive-aggressive people. So we need to identify what population do we fit with. And you say, we fit with people who are dealing with these irritants and this toxicity. That's our skill. So we're going to find the ways to develop our resources and our team and our technical skills to be able to serve them. And I think you'll find that when you can do that, you're going to have a win-win. If you don't, then you're going to be inviting some people who are going to be difficult, unappreciative, pains in the neck, and it's going to be very costly to you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Did I answer or did I answer?
Well, I was just commenting on reality. That I think all of us here have chosen to take that on.
Yes.
Clients come to us, so.
Yes. And there's some people that I would take on and some people I wouldn't. And if you can identify those ones that you see you're willing to take on, higher probability you're going to succeed. Yes?
My practice has gone through a lot of transition, and I have actually about a handful of patients that come in, and everybody on my staff hates to see these patients. They know
Yes.
it's on the schedule.
Good.
They just don't even want
Right.
to deal with it. It's
Right.
always just the hygiene thing. My hygienist will say, well, you don't need to come in this I'd like to get
Okay. Okay. So the title of our presentation, and I was going to take a few minutes to say, what are you looking for in this presentation? But because of time, I figured, well, you got to, what you're looking for is how do you say goodbye? Yeah. All right. First of all, it'd be neat if we could identify the ones that we want to invite and the ones that we don't want to invite. Secondly, we've got how long have we been in practice? 17 years. I've got some weeds in this garden over 17 years. You know. Okay. Right. And so what I would say is we're going to treat everyone with courtesy and respect. But there's going to be updating in terms of the contract that we have. See, you have a contract with every patient. Sometimes the patient dictates the terms of the contract and the doctor acquiesces or cooperates. Sometimes the doctor says the terms of the contract. The best contract is when they both do it together. But in many of the cases, when you have a pain in the ass, a weed in the garden, it's because they've dictated the terms of the contract, and it's not a win-win. And we're very frustrated, we don't like it, and we're tolerating it. And the hygienist says, and their mouth continues to deteriorate. I keep telling them what to do. All right, so we've got to be able to get together and say, here's this, what are we going to do about this guy? What would be the terms of a contract that if he started today, and given where he is, I think the best thing to take care of him would be these things. Then I need to say, what's your first name? Bob? Bob, it's time for us to do a review of where we are, where we've been, and where we are, and where we're going to go. And let's see if we can look at a direction that I want to go to help you, and if that makes sense and you agree. And so we'll spell out terms, and if Bob has a high level of appreciation, he'll say, it's about time we get on with it, and I agree. If he has a low level of appreciation, he's going, are you nuts? Delta Insurance won't cover that. I wouldn't do that anyway. Well, I'm not comfortable supporting you in your slow demise and losing all your teeth. I'm here to save teeth. So we need to come out with some sort of an understanding that what I'm going to do and what the staff is going to do is going to be consistent with what our commitments are. Because what we're doing is violating our own commitments to what our values are. And they're dictating it, maybe passively or subtly, or with ignorance, and we've found ways to endure it. So we have to say, what's a fair contract? And you need to say, what kind of a practice do you have? You know, you need to spell out in your own mind, and your staff need to say, this is the kind of practice that we want to have. Now, there are some exceptions to this situation where for political reasons or family situations or whatever reason, there's some people that I'm going to endure, and I'll ask my staff to support me. But I promise I won't give them more than 5 a year. You know, I get 5 free rides. The rest of the time, we're going to weed the garden. And we're going to do that by saying, I want to care for you in a way that's worthy of my commitments and my philosophy and my values. And I don't want my staff to be frustrated talking to somebody that doesn't change their behavior. Now, the other thing is that quite often when I work with an office, I find that the client hasn't really been approached as skillfully as we could to find out what's the buttons to push to motivate them. You know, and that we're singing the same song the same way every time, and they've turned us off. So we have to be maybe a little more creative at finding ways to motivate them. But if you say, here's a situation that's untenable for us, doesn't look like it's going to change, then I need to say, it's time to update the contract and say, where are we going here? Does that feel comfortable with you? Okay. Yes, sir.
You keep talking about contract.
Yes.
I'd like to know what you can do to help. I'm sure
Yes.
many people in this room
Yes.
are so-called healers with a big heart.
Yes.
And in reality, this term is equivalent to victim of abuse.
Yes. Very good.
And
This is a rescue triangle, isn't it?
how are we going to pick the majority of the patients who are toxic? That's why they're sick.
Yes.
Disregarding where is toxic body or toxic emotion or
Yes.
whatever it is. What's your suggestion? When this victimized here are in reality carry a notion of being a medical missionary. They are missionaries. That means, and like you can say you want to be a win-winner, you can selectively exclude someone or whatever. But these missionaries, they have to open their arms to whoever drop into that position. What is your suggestion? I know myself, there are quite a few of them in this room really, I
Yes.
know as a personal friend, the victim of abuse
Okay.
because of the being a big top
Yes.
healer,
Very good.
holistic healer.
Yes. Now
Now-
you, okay. You used the word victim twice, so there's something significant there. First of all, first thing that comes to my mind is a lot of missionaries get put in a pot and cooked. I don't want to be a missionary. They're going to cook me for dinner. So it's not a win-win that way. And we need to be astute enough to see that the situation is so dangerous, inappropriate, and untenable, it would not be appropriate for us to go into that. And if we do, it's kind of a naivete that says we're going to walk in where angels would fear to tread, and it's not going to work. So that's one thing. We need to have a higher level of awareness of our capacity, our resources, and our ability to impact, and to be able to look at that honestly to say, I can handle this situation. I cannot handle this situation. I just don't see how I'm going to be able to educate, relate, establish a kind of a rapport, communications relationship. I just don't see how that's going to happen. Okay, now I want to go back to something that you said at least twice, and that's the victim thing. God damn, it's your turn. All right. Let me apologize to my colleague. He said he gets 143 minutes, and I got 7. And once I got up here, I wanted to let him come. Never mind. Oh, am I going to pay for it tonight? When I go to dinner.
I'm sure you're not a lawyer.
All right. Okay. Can you see this? Might turn the lights up a little bit. Have you ever heard of the rescue triangle? Anybody in here ever heard of the rescue triangle? God, am I lucky? Okay. This is so important for people in the helping professions. Because most of us have been taught to help people, to care for people, and to heal. And most of the time, that's cool. But there are some times that it's not smart. And I'd like to alert you to that situation that I think is very dangerous. And I call it the rescue triangle. And it's a situation where we have people that come to us with bigger problems than anybody else. You think toxicity? Oy, Gewalt, I got toxicity, and then I got a hostile wife. No offense to the sex kitten of the Western world sitting back. 40 years I've been with this woman. Insatiable needs. I don't want to get into it right now. They work for employers that won't let them off to go to the dentist. They have insurance companies that'll never pay for anything. And plus they've had terrible dentistry. and they're sucking pus out as we speak. So here's these guys. They're called victims. They're easy to spot. If you just look at them with your eyes closed, if you listen, they'll tell you everything. Listen. And you'll see and you'll hear the black cloud over their head and the rain's falling on them and blood's dripping, and it's just pathetic. Don't go there. So here they are. Sometimes they can get your front desk gal to say, oh my God, you've got to see this woman, or this poor guy is just pathetic. And they'll tell you about the persecutors in the world, about the crappy dentistry, about their personal problems, about the toxicity, about everything. Only their situation is greater than most other people that you encounter. It's much more extreme. And then they come to you. Bob. Healing hands. How tall are you? 6'5" of potency. Have you seen this man is a stud. I don't mean to be inappropriate, but powerful guy. Now, the deal is if you have a high ego and you think you're as cool as your fantasy, and you're not in the Academy of Biological Dentists, are you? Are you a member of that academy? As soon as they find thank you, Bob. As soon as they find out that you've got any kind of credential skill that makes you special, they pump that up. Because that's where they're going to hook you. It's your ego is how they're going to capture you into their trap. And the guys that my experience is the LD Panky guys who think they know everything there is, some of them. And so that's how they get seduced. Okay. So they've got the stage set. We got the victim, we got the persecutors, the people that are hurting them, and then we got the rescuer. The missionary. In this guy's case, what's your first name? Francis. Norman, nice guy. This man is really a nice guy. And so because of his niceness and his caring, he's going to be putting short pants and a lollipop, and they're going to throw him into the wolves because he's going to be taken advantage. He's a good person. He's going to be eaten alive. Okay, so they got you. What they do now is so magnificent. They raise the ante of responsibility. And they manipulate the situation so that the rescuer takes more responsibility for the victim's problem than is reasonable. 50-50 is reasonable. 60-40, 70-30, not appropriate at all. 80-20. When they get you to 80-20, you're 80% responsible for their dental problems, and they're 20% responsible. A guy comes out on the stage and blows a whistle. Only German Shepherds and Doberman Pinschers can hear this. When they blow the whistle, everyone changes positions. And the rescuer becomes the victim. And the victim becomes the persecutor. It's called, I'm suing your ass. Or it's called, you're going to do these dentures 5,000 times and it's still not going to fit. Or the color of these crowns is not going to satisfy me, even no matter how great the lab is. I'm never going. My TMJ, well, no, it's over here today now. No, Well, it's back here in the back. So you're going to be handcuffed to this victim who's become your persecutor for the rest of your life. Now, if somebody's suing me for $3 million, bitching at me to redo their crowns 8 times, not a good deal. So I want you to be able to identify the rescue triangle and say, the victim is telling me that no one's going to be able to help them, and in the end, I'm going to become victimized. That's a smart, intelligent, responsible decision to say, I don't think I can help you, and pass. It's our ego that says, oh, I can take this on. And that's where we get eaten alive. Does this make sense? I've got a buddy, calls me about every 6 weeks. He's a very good dentist, and he has a lot of referrals from other dentists. And he says, now I just want to go through this situation. Tell me if this sounds like the rescue triangle, because I do not want to get into that.
However,
Yes.
I totally agree with what you got going on there, but let's face it, there are going to be people that come in that are legitimately victimized. And,
Yes.
And you
Yes.
need to be able to offer them something that they just haven't seen.
Right.
So how did...
Beautiful.
You could break that cycle.
Yes.
You see that you have...
Yes.
Right?
Excellent. Did you hear that? He said there are some legitimate situations where people are being victimized. Well, hey, I'm into taking care of those guys. It's the ones that are magnificent sufferers that carry their suffering to a higher level. I mean, you could get an Academy Award. You know, I look at the dentistry and I go, it's not so bad. What are they, you know? So it's that very small population that have, the facts have nothing to do with the situation. Their commitment is to deal with the world from the victim psychological frame of reference, and no matter what you do, they're going to hold on to doing victim. And when they get you caught in the trap, then they're going to switch positions because they don't like doing victim sometimes, and they like to get back. And so, no, I would challenge even my statements. There are some legitimate situations where people have really been taken advantage of, and it shows. You know, and I can really empathize with that, and I know if I've got some good skills, I can make a difference. But it's the ones in my staff, if I've got a pretty good staff, are going to go, I don't know about what this gal's saying, because they're very fast at picking up.
And that's what it is. It's identification. And the way you identify it is over time, you become very aware of when these people aren't sincere. When they first come in and they, right off the bat, with even not even knowing you, start flipping out with all the stuff Kyle's talking about. That's the one I'm talking about. The other kind that you're thinking about won't do that. They'll come in, they'll kind of be quiet. They're not going to pump out right off the bat what their problem is. And they'll be more sincere. They won't be wearing, or there's one mask we talked about that they always wear. And whenever anybody's wearing a mask and isn't their true self, you start to be able to see that as you listen. Because there's one of the things Tal's always said is if you listen, they'll tell you everything you need to know. And what he's listening to is not their words. He's listening beyond the words. He's listening to what's going on inside the person. And with practice on your staff and your cells, the more you work with this stuff, the more it becomes more and more apparent what's happening inside the person, not what's happening on the surface.
I'd like to indicate that another factor in this whole process is to talk about the dentist and being more aware of where the dentist is. And I'd like Dan to talk about some of the things that he's developed in understanding and looking at himself and how he's moved and evolved and where he sees the dental profession and the range of sophistication that the dentist has in classifying themselves. We need to be aware. It's easy to be looking at the other. It's hard to look at the other guy, but it's much harder to look at ourselves. And so he's got a real neat way of taking a look at the levels of readiness. And I'm trying to talk while he's monkeying around here. It's great eye-hand coordination. I mean, the man's...
All right. I think there's a handout there. It's level of understanding. Do you guys all have that? And it's sort of related to what... Here. You got the hands.
Oh, okay. Sure.
Yeah, I can't see what I do.
Yeah,
Yeah, I need a mirror.
well, see, and he isn't doing it backwards.
There you go. Okay.
Ooh. We've gone to great expense to do the audio visuals.
So what I put down is just sort of a way of looking at listening and what level you may in one day be versus another day or what. But I've grouped it into 5 different ways you can kind of look at it. And I'll start, the beginning is communication is to find out main concern. That's, in other words, on the phone, your receptionist is just basically asking the simple questions about who, what, and where. Then it moves on to going to the basics. What they then start doing at both the exam and on the phone is discuss a little beyond just the basics. So China gets in a little bit more into what's going on. Going down to seeking to understand. Yeah. Then what we're starting to do is ask questions that help us better understand who the patient is. So they're starting to kind of ask questions, kind of to listen to what their story is over the phone. And from that, be able to deduce who it is. That's the time where when our office, which is a lot of times that's where we are, when we get a new patient on the phone. And when the patient is coming in that morning, we'll kind of review, all right, what was the story that this patient had to give you, and what feeling do you have about whether they're a good fit or not? And we'll get that kind of so I have sort of an idea when I go in the exam where I need to go with it. And if we feel that it's maybe not going to be a good fit, one of the things that I think is really early in these kind of people when we identify them is the earlier we can get to having that conversation that Tal talked about, the better. And so I won't have them fill out a form. I'll first sit down in the operatory or wherever you feel comfortable doing it and sort of having a little conversation about their needs and whether they fit what I can do for them to meet those needs. And that, if it's done at the very beginning like that, I have never had any patient walk out mad. They've always been so appreciative that I was honest with them. And that's the other thing. I'm totally honest with them. And if I feel that patient is kind of maybe not, I'm not sure, I'll set up contracts that he talks about. Really make sure I document everything. You know, if they're really kind of on the line, I'm not sure. I'll just kind of cover myself that way. So then once we're doing that, then as you get that, you get more and more accurate as to how well you can identify the patient from both the conversation before they come in and then afterwards. And now I've even started, I took a class on remote viewing. I don't know if you know about remote viewing, where I'll just take the first name of the patient, I'll get the new patient name. And from that, I'll start to just kind of, I'll meditate, and then I'll say, okay, you know, who is this person? And I'll just try to write down thoughts. And about 50% of the time, I'm fairly there. Sometimes I'm not. But the one thing I do find that really helps with is when that patient walks in the door, I already have a rapport going with them. There's something that happens that just connects me with them. And I think that patients really feel that too. And it really opens doors for being able to communicate better with them. I'll go through quickly the rest. The other thing is in the beginning, doctor tells, patient listens. At the end, doctor questions come from the subconscious and uncover the patient's true needs. At times I can be in a state where I don't know where the questions come from, but when they do, the patient looks me right in the eye and goes, whoa, where did that come from? You hit me right on the nose. So you can work up to that level just by listening. I really started out, active listening was something that I learned a long time ago, and after you start active listening for a while and start bringing out the patient, then you really start hearing who they are underneath, and you can go right directly to it. Doctor thinks about the future, the past, and the patient talks. That is about all the chatter that's going on in your head. It's thinking about, gee, I just left the prep. What do I got to do on it to get done? Geez, I'm running behind. What can we do to fix it in the future or in the rest of my day? Gee, what am I going to do after work? Part of the process of going down and being able to listen better is to start eliminating all of that. And so being able to work with people that are good fit with you really helps that. You don't have the 20% of the people coming in taking up 80% of your time. Those you'd start to shuffle off. You're taking advantage in the beginning with gamey people. You get involved in these kind of things. But in the end, you're able to see right through those masks to who the true person is. And that there is a special gift in everybody. And in that beginning exam, when you're able to go right to that special gift that they have and be able to bring that out, it opens doors that allow you to really communicate the true needs. They feel safe sharing that with you. In the beginning, when we're working on people, we're really not aware of what's going on with the person and how they're feeling. As time goes on, we start to see the facial features, and we've all learned that, when they're in pain. And in the end, all of a sudden you start to get to a point where you know when the patient's going to be uncomfortable before they give any facial features or anything. You just know it. So that's when Tao was saying, listen, to tell you everything they know. That's the process that I've taken to be where I'm at. And I'm sure there's more levels below what I'm at, where I see right now, beyond that. But by just starting with the listening, that's where we can go. We've covered now 3 things. We've covered the classification, we've done the victim triangle, and we've done these levels of understanding. Is there any part of that that you'd like to cover in more detail at this point? What I'll say too is that we've broken the information that Tao's developed into 3 parts. This is the first part. I do have some examples if we want to go through on how to classify people and what levels they are, and I've picked some characters that we're all familiar with from movies to be able to go through. We could do that just as an exercise. Does that sound? Yes, David.
I just want to make one comment from the non-dental world. I work in an emergency room with you, and we see, of course, all the more dysfunctional, I call them borderline personality disorder types that don't make it into your office, that don't do well in your office, and show up and see us at 2 in the morning. And it's not just that they glorify you as their savior. They also badmouth whatever previous ER doc previous name just screwed up. And I think what these people need most of all is tight, loving boundaries. You make it very clear what you can do for them. Say it in as loving a way as you can, but set the boundaries. And it's probably going to be helpful to us if you're going to essentially turn someone out of your practice because things aren't working out. Let the ER know, because that's where they're going to wind up. I mean, it is, honestly. Because that way we can maintain the same boundaries instead of being caught off guard. And we know when the borderline personality shows up, because the nurse will come back and say, you have got to get this person out of here now, and I haven't seen them yet. Or, oh, can't you please just help this poor loving soul, because they've been suckered in. So I'm just thinking that probably some kind of cohesive alliance would be the most therapeutic thing for all of us as well as for the patient.
And I do that. I have never had turned out anybody out in the cold. I'm always make sure I find someone else they can go to. And I'm in a community here where I'm the only biological dentist. So, and I've offered to, you know, once they find somebody, if they want the biologic, you can call me anytime. They want information about it, and that seems to satisfy what they would like to do. Yeah.
I think the issue, put it real simple, being a simple guy, the issue is caring. And sometimes there's a little dentistry done. Now, if I perceive that I can do a good caring, we've got a win-win. If I say, for whatever reasons, I'm not going to be able to find that path to care for him, then I need to help him find somebody else that can. Now, it may be that some of the people that we reject or we refer on would go to the ER room. But I would suggest that the population of people in the dental field, probably this relates to the top 20 percentile. So there's probably an 80% of the other dental profession that still could be resources to care for 3 and 4 type clients, patients, that this population would not be able to care for or interested in caring for. 20% of your difficult people take 80% of your time. Well, that's not a good fit for this level of sophistication. You know, so it would be a better fit for the other level, other dentists in the profession who are interested in seeing high volumes, large numbers of people doing all kinds of things. And then the next step on the way is the ER room. So, any other comments, questions? Don't fight. There's enough time for 2 of you. Yes.
Yeah, I had a lady once that I pegged her immediately as a very perfectionist, and she wanted me to bond to her teeth. So I said, I forget how I worded it, but I said I won't bond your teeth. So she looked at me, she said, "You bonding me?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, I do bond you." I said, "But I won't bond your teeth." So she looked at me and she said, "Well, why?" I said, "I'm afraid." I said, "I would never be able to please you." Now that was harsh reality.
That was pretty tough.
And
Yeah.
I got ready to be slapped.
Yes.
And she got this biggest smile on her face. And I was just taken. I hit the nail on the head.
You did.
And then she walked into my office and we were friends.
When you did it so caringly, you know, you weren't hostile in your confrontation. You were confronting in a caring way, and it was probably the first time anybody ever said, nobody's going to be able to satisfy you, because their standards were unrealistic. Yeah, that's really neat. Cool. Any other comments or questions? Yes, sir.
In this discussion, I find very fascinating, there's a certain kind of, in history, right now, in history of the dental and medical, the allopathic field, even in biological dentistry, there's a certain kind of, what you're proposing is sort of working upstream against a historical precedent.
Yes.
You have to remember that the standard relationship of the allopathic community, both dental and medical, to society has been mainly one of claiming an infallibility, the ability to take care of you and fix you, without having you be involved, because we're the only ones that know what to do. You won't understand it. And having a monopoly on healing. Whereas in the classical medical fields, and we've heard the lecture here about Ayurvedic, when you're trained as an Ayurvedic physician, in the old ways, you're actually taught, of course, that the disease and the healing are located in the patient, not in the doctor. And if you find that because of the patient's life process, which is what we're talking about, that they are not capable of receiving what you have to give, then you have to make this kind of contract, because it says if you don't, this will reflect back on you. But of course, in order to do that,
in the most caring, and I like that word you use, the most caring and the most realistic way, then we have to, in the brought up in the allopathic modalities, we have to do a lot of soul searching and find out that what we're really doing isn't what we thought we were doing, but making a new kind of contract with ourselves about what we're really doing. If not, we're constantly going to be caught in that paradox.
Right. And I'll take it one step further. And so we need to be pretty honest with our capacities and our abilities and our intentions. And then we need to take a look at what kind of a workforce am I employing? And so another factor in this presentation, which we probably won't go into, but I want to at least point on it, is what kinds of personnel am I going to surround me with to complement and support me in the caring? And if I'm going to follow the model that most practice management guys offer, is you find the lowest level that you can find, and you pay them $1 an hour, and you run them around, and when they burn out, what the hell? You bring in another one. Well, if you take a look at Dr. Green's office, you'll find that he has a very high level of sophistication, great maturity, many years of training, and their listening skills they make him look good. So they're able to pick up situations and support him in making the best decisions, the best contracts. So the more, fortunately, we have the honor of one of his staff here today. She's the weak link in the chain, but I don't want to go into that right now. She's one. At any rate, so not only what kind of position do I have, but what kind of a team do I surround me with? And am I committed to developing their skills and their abilities and their, and as Dan and I were talking, quite often we find in many offices the amount of skill and sophistication in interviewing. How many courses have you taken on interviewing? You say several. I'm going to punch you. Say none.
I'll say none.
Nothing. I know nothing. Say I know nothing. Most of the guys in the field haven't had any training on interviewing. And what do? They do an interview for 20 minutes after a long day's work, and they talk most of the time. And they employ people. So we got to develop our skills at being able to pick good, capable, talented, mature, fun. I want to have people I enjoy working with. And so that's another factor in this whole concept of classifying. How am I going to be able to take care of 1s and 2s clients and I have 3s and 4s staff? That's hypocrisy. We're going to walk it if we're going to talk it. We got to walk it. And so we got to have the type of staff that are consistent with the dentist. And this is a good example. Okay, I'm sorry. Great one. He's going to give you a couple examples to test.
Oh, well, I was going to just close it, actually. I think we're ready to move on and have dinner. It's getting late. And I'm going to close it with a quote. I know I told you I'd give you And that is that if you maintain a feeling of compassion, loving kindness, then something automatically opens your inner door. Through that, you can communicate much more easily with other people. And that feeling of warmth creates a kind of openness. You'll find that all human beings are just like you, so you'll be able to relate to them more easily. And that's really what saying hello and saying goodbye is really all about, so that we're able to do this. Thank you.
We'll hang out for anybody who wants to ask some questions or whatever, or if you want to get some more, so give us your business card, or we'll hang around for a few minutes. If you want.
I'm back here to collect the papers for Charlie on the way out.
Dan, I cheated you
Announcement
out of
before you
that.
go.
That's all right.
Tonight we have 2 events. At 7:30, Andy Landerman is teaching his EAV course, and there's a special event at 7 o'clock. My nurse Andriana, who's been with me for ancient times, she does 2 things. One, wants to introduce you to Hans Lechner's computerized program. Those of you who use muscle testing, one of the leading dentists in Europe, really like biological dentists in Europe, who worked with me for many years and some of my teachers, we developed a muscle testing system called ART, and he's sort of like an offshoot of that. And rather than using ampoules and test kits to place on the patient, he put the whole material that we need for testing in the computer, similar to what Doug has done, and he's learned a lot from Doug Weber in developing his program. But it's a way of integrating computer software and muscle testing with each other, which has become, like amongst German dentists, one of the two leading systems, really Doug's system here and Hans Lechner's system that is now in the world of the two. They're not competing systems, they're very much the same. One group prefers to use the muscle testing or arm length testing, the other group prefers to use the instrument. So she's going to introduce that technique. Plus, Adriana's husband, David Vaughan, is, in my opinion, the leading nutritionist in the world. And he's the first man who managed to develop a nutritional software program that introduced, that combines the metabolic typing, everything we know about that, blood group diet, anything written on diet, when you have MS, what kind of diet should you have? When you have scleroderma, what kind of diet you have? You can give all the data on a patient, including the blood work, into the computer, and the computer will match it with everything that's known about the illness, plus the metabolic typing, plus blood group typing, and then print out the diet plan for the patient. And it is phenomenal, the cancer healings and healings in severe illnesses that we observe since we are working with that program. It's a big revolution in medicine that you can, with very little data input into a computer, customize nutrition for a patient, including, it comes out with this list of supplements that you would need for this patient. It's a radical quantum leap that we observe with that, and she's going to introduce both those systems briefly tonight at 7 o'clock. So those of you who don't go to Andy's workshop, I suggest still to stay for a half hour to learn it before you go to dinner, if you can swing that. Okay, any other announcements? Andy, do you have anything you want to say?
No. See you this evening.
Carol.
The certificates are here, and then the list of attendees, the addresses of everybody. So as you go out the door, please get your certificate, and if you want to know.
You may want to call Andy and Terry Lee up here to discuss about the trade association.
Andy and Terry Lee, would you come up here and talk about the idea of the Trade Association of Health Practitioners?